Hello there, Croeso and welcome. I'm Shadow Lummox and I'm back here on Wreckfest to do some online racing on the Carmageddon tracks that were released about, well, actually a couple of years ago now at this point. Just to show some of the races that I came across while racing on these tracks. I didn't realise that these tracks came up as part of the rotation, and I think it's only on the EU, on the A-Class Derby servers, not the normal racing ones. So after a pretty good start and then a rough hairpin, I'm making my way back down the track before we take a very sharp left here. And you can see a lot of people get that very wrong, so I make up a good load of places there. And these tracks are very much a 90s throwback. Lots of 90-degree corners. Graphic style is very reminiscent of games I was playing as a kid. Unfortunately, there are no zombies on track. That would have been actually quite fun. But it's fun enough with just normal racing. I've got myself into a nice position here. The Hammerhead RS cars are way off into the distance as expected, and when you're on a A-Class server up against the Hammerhead people in Hammerhead RS cars, you're just going to have to accept the fact that you just can't keep up with them. While I have that particular car myself, I haven't turned it into the overpowered monster it can be. I've instead made mine as a wrecking monster that I save for demolition matches and the figure eight courses, things like that. Things where I got plenty of strength and plenty of speed. But for normal racing, I just use the wide variety of cars that are available. Plenty of fun ones to use. And there's the first big crash that I get on the switchback part of the lap. Managed to save the spin quite nicely and carry on my way, even though I do mess up that corner. And it's very tricky to get the corners right on this. There's no smooth transitions. There's lots of these 90-degree corners into drops, into raises, and there's nothing smooth really about it that you'd expect from a modern track. As I said, these tracks are very much a 90s throwback, and they can produce some really good racing. I've got a wrecking assist there as someone who has crashed into me earlier in the race has met their maker, but I'm still going on P5, coming up to finish lap 2, begin lap 3, and I think I'm in a pretty good spot. But it's all due to unravel as we get back to this switchback section. As we come across the carnage that has been, that are the cars littered around from earlier in the laps. And I'm P4 now. The cars that are just ahead of me are pretty close as well. So at this point I'm thinking, oh, I've got a really good chance. Get myself up into P3. But here comes the carnage. And while I do manage to survive this, this is basically the beginning of the end for my excursion on this track. As people will just, well, it's a blind section that. If you choose to take the middle of the road as I did, thinking people would go to the sides to try and save themselves, well, I was horribly mistaken. And we now drop back to P8 with the hot bomb right next to us, and the hot bomb, the most expensive car in the game, which you get from the Fame store. It's pretty fast, stupidly strong, and horrible at corners. As I make my way past here, as they try to get me to spin out, but I know exactly what I'm doing. You just basically just get off the throttle, start turning against it, and you can put up a good defense. But I've got the hot bomb right behind me. I'm coming up to a heavy braking zone, and I pretty much know what's going to happen. Although I try to make my way through there, but it's not to be, as the hot bomb makes short work and my race ends there. So we move on to the next Carmageddon track, and this one is, well, not so many 90-degree corners, but there are plenty of places for Carnage, and a horrible start there as I try to make my way out, and a horrible rejoin for myself. Probably should have reset, but so be it. I'm now down in last position, half the health gone on my car, and 4 laps still to go of this course. I know that it is very easy to cause huge amounts of damage to yourself just by going too fast into these corners. The walls are right there on either side. There is not much room for error in certain parts of this track. So we come up to a huge gaggle of cars here, and I just try to carefully pick my way through. Although I've taken that corner quite badly, I've still managed to get out ahead of them. Got myself back into P13 from dead last. Still on the first lap though. We got a nice long run here down to this corner. The other tricky part of these tracks is that there's no real way to determine a braking zone. You got to basically do it by instinct and by a certain amount of memory. As I make my way nicely around that corner, as you see plenty of people getting it wrong, going too fast into that corner, smashing into the barriers then that are on the exit. And it's a very similar job here, as a very poor ramming attempt there, but they managed to survive and get through. And even though I took the corner wide, I'm still going strong as myself. As we come now into what would be the sort of infield section. I made a huge mess of that corner, taking a nice chunk of health off myself. And the most dangerous place in Wreckfest is when you're in the middle of the fight. It is horrible sometimes. You sometimes feel like you just can't get out of it. You always feel like if you get a bit of clean track, I can maybe pull away, start trying to catch up with the cars in front. But the nature of Wreckfest racing means that you're just constantly in that fight. So I take that corner very nicely, avoid the car rejoining there, and make up a huge number of positions. So brake hard again, but I've braked a bit too late there, but still managed to take the corner without smashing into the wall, which is all you're really trying to do. Car now close to death, but I'm still going, so I will keep going for as long as possible, trying to do better than the last race, which ended in a DNF on lap 3. We'll see if we can make it to the end. We're already down to 19 races, as a few people have either wrecked or decided to quit, which is sometimes fair enough. The races can go on for a long while, and if you're wrecked right at the beginning, you'll then have to just spectate for the whole race. Sometimes it could be 5 to 10 minute races. And now I'm in the danger zone. I've got single digit health left on my car, damaged suspension, huge damage all round to my car. I've now got just over a lap to go, and the smallest amount of contact from another racer, or maybe over braking for under braking for a corner, will result in another DNF. I'm just trying to bring it home. Come down here, brake just before the wreck there on the right, get this corner nicely, doesn't matter if you drift off wide in these tracks. Take that corner a little bit too wide, you can cut that quite nicely following the dirt. Don't have to stick to the tarmac. And again, got that corner much better than I did on the previous lap. And then this section, you want to get close to clipping that inside section as much as you can, so you can carry the speed through there. Take that corner a little wide, which affects my run onto this back straight. The car in front in P8 is managing to get away. This P1 has crossed the line. I'm so close now to being able to complete this race with the minimalist amount of health, and just hoping now as I come up to another group of cars that I can just get through this corner. I'm not going to try the overtake just in case they try to wreck me out of spite. And I make it through to the end, to the finish in P9. So I just want to say deal and thank you for watching this Carmageddon online Carnage.